pretty much all year round. But I keep it quiet on some months, a little quieter. So, but for this month, man, I just shout Merry Christmas. And I shout Merry Christmas. I do not shout Happy Holidays, okay? I'm telling you that about myself because I love Christmas. I love what Christmas is to all of us, what it means in that birthing and rebirthing of the Christ within. It is Christ Mass, and that is wonderful. That is a time of great joy and celebration, as you know. Now, for some of us in this holiday time, it isn't all the joyous shouting. And how do I know that? Because I know that there are people who have a difficult time at this time of year. And that is to only recognize that, honor that, and hold that space. It is not to dwell in that, but it is to recognize and honor. Not everyone is skipping rope, as we will, as I like to say, all the Christmas time. But I am here in where I am today to skip the rope and to be joyous. And we should never allow another person's challenge or sorrow to diminish the joy in our hearts. Because what happens when we do that, we also diminish our connection to them and honoring the Christ in their hearts, whether they feel that or not at this particular time. And when we model our own joy and we don't hide that light under a bushel, we are saying to the world, I am joy-filled, I am Christ-filled, and I am at peace with that knowledge. So last week we started with the first candle of faith in this Advent season, this beautiful time of preparation, of getting ready for the great celebration of the rebirth or the Christ in us. And this Sunday we light the candle of peace. And I'm going to speak a little bit about peace, but I think when I spoke to you last week, I said we would talk a little bit about the Advent candle and the time of preparation. And then I read to you that you may remember the angel Gabriel visited Mary and told Mary that she would be with child. And he also told that to Joseph. And both of them had doubts. Their faith was short initially. And then Mary visited Elizabeth, her cousin, who was also with child. This is the biblical part of our story. And let me respond here with our story. I would like you to know and understand, and I think most of you do, the Christmas story is our story. It's your story and mine. It is about us. So the second part of the story for me, as I read from Luke chapter 2. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver the child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. In the region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock at night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. I always like that part, because I'm thinking of the glory and the angels and the light, and oh wow, and then there's that sentence, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid. For see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you, and you will find the child wrapped in bands of cloth, lying in a manger. When the angels had left them and gone to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us. So they went, and with haste found Mary and Joseph and the child. When they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. And Mary treasured these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told them. Last week we spoke about the shepherds and what great faith they had in leaving their flocks and going to see Mary and the new babe and Joseph in the manger. So metaphysically, let's talk a little bit about the shepherds, which is the second part of this story. Actually the third, because we've now had birth. But the shepherds basically represent the good, positive thoughts that we hold. Metaphysically, thoughts are the sheep. We have flocks of sheep running through our minds, if that's a visual for you. And boy, don't they run, and don't they coagulate, and don't they need positive thoughts to help them kind of move down the field, so to speak. So metaphysically, that's what we're talking about. Think of your thoughts as flocks of sheep, and think of the shepherds, metaphysically, as your positive thoughts that are always focusing you on the Christ within. They are leading you, they are moving you to explore, expand your inner Christed self. And that I always found, for me, to be quite comforting in this particular part of the story. The shepherds had great faith. The shepherds represent that positive feeling, that positive knowing that the Christ within is always, always here for us. And when we listen to those positive thoughts, when we listen to our Christ, we are in alignment, and we are expanding our awareness and deepening our faith and our understanding of exactly what it means to practice the presence of the Christ. So pay attention to the flocks of thoughts that you have in your mind. And when you find yourself caught up in a fearful flock, look to the Good Shepherd within and find that guiding light that leads you back to the peace. Now, this morning, before I go further, you know we talk a lot about in Unity how we are practical Christians. And so when a concept like this that comes up, like peace, an attribute, it's an attribute of all of us, it's an attribute of the soul. When peace comes up, especially in times where it doesn't feel very peaceful, whether that's our world that isn't feeling very peaceful, whether that's our inner world that isn't feeling very peaceful, we sometimes let those flocks of doubt, those thoughts of doubt and fear take over. When we become so convinced that we are in a state of fear or doubt or lack of understanding, we somehow try and remember to come back to the Christ, but it isn't always easy. It's something that we talk about, but in practical Christianity, I want to give you something that I'd like you to explore with me today that maybe you can pull on when you're in a state of confusion, of doubt, of anger, of fear. Because often I have found, even for myself, I will say a mantra like, peace be still, peace be still, peace here and now. But sometimes that doesn't necessarily put me in a peaceful state. It makes me very, shall we say, anxious to get the peace quick. And we don't get the peace quick unless we're feeling authentically in peace with ourselves. And I've also found, and I'm a practitioner of heart math. Some of you know about heart math and some of you do not. So I'm going to give you this practical little piece. See if it works for you as a way of calling yourself and the flocks of the thoughts of doubt back to your Christ. So I'm going to ask you now in a very practical way to simply close your eyes. And go to your heart space. Literally move your consciousness to your heart. And now in that heart space, think of someone or some time or some place that brings you peace, that brings you love, or that makes you smile. And it can be an animal, it can be a child, it can be a beach, it can be a mountain, but you smile, and you feel peace, and you feel love. And now say to yourself, always working in this place of peace, what is it that's bothering me? What is it that I doubt? And if I come at it from this place of peace, this place of love, deal with it a different way? Might I see it a different way? Might my actions and my words be different coming from this very special place? And simply bless that place. And then speak to yourself from your heart how you would handle this situation from your heart. And now please open your eyes. And that is just a process. That is a heart math process. But you can learn to use it actually in the moment by remembering to go back to your Christ self. And for some of us, saying the Christ self is an intellectual pursuit. When we have an idea, an expression, a loved one, a place that we love, we feel that. And if we can come and make our prospects, our aspects, our inspects of the way we do life from our heart, it makes a world of difference, and it brings the peace that passes all understanding. Because you literally, with that one small exercise, can be, if you choose to, practicing the presence of God and understanding the peace of God right then, right there, in that moment. Yes, it takes discipline. Yes, it takes practice, but mostly it takes trust. Do you trust that there is a Christ presence within yourself? Do you trust that Christ presence? And do you understand and know that when we align ourselves with the Christ presence within, we will know the peace that passes all understanding? What I'm saying to you also is that's not always easy. This is just one way. There are other ways of knowing how to find the Christ within yourself. Prayer, meditation, a long walk. What I'm also saying is it's fine to understand what it is that these things are, but it is in the choice to use them and to believe that they can work with you, to walk with you in the peace of God. It is your choice. Now, the other part of this that I would like to address is Jesus was our way shower, and Jesus practiced peace. Jesus was a peacemaker. And I'm asking you this morning to ask yourself, are you a peacemaker? The world has great need of peacemakers, my friends. And to be a peacemaker, you must be the peace that you want to see in the world. If you are walking through life exuding peaceful attributes and a peaceful presence, that's what you will attract, and that's what will multiply. That will expand. And so the demonstration is the proof in the pudding, so to speak. Are you a peacemaker? Can you answer that question? And can you answer it authentically in each and every moment? You see, we can be a peacemaker and say we are right now, and then we can go right outside and it all kind of vanishes away. It becomes, once again, an intellectual pursuit. To be a peacemaker, this is when we're a peacemaker, and I'm going to read this to you from the Advent booklet because it's rather strong. We are peacemakers whenever we lay down the daggers and machetes in our minds that we secretly throw at our fellow citizens, family members, and anyone else we have other-sized, criticized, marginalized, or ostracized. We can lay down the stones that we were ready to cast at those who don't believe as we do, or look like us, or talk like us. Peacemakers look beyond their own self-interests, beyond tribal survivalist instincts, to the infinite possibilities of creating a beloved community. Look at this community. Your mission, your vision, your goals are about to be looked at in depth. But you have held a vision of a greater good, of a community of love. That is the core of this community. We saw that recently. That is what peacemakers do. Peacemakers do that in every avenue of their lives. not just in their spiritual communities. And that's part of the message of peace this Advent, especially in our world, but also as we approach this season. Many of us have challenges that we keep to ourselves, and we are not good peacemakers to ourselves. Remember, loving oneself is absolutely critical. It is first and foremost in order to love the world. If you don't love yourself, if you are not at peace with yourself, what are you? You're at war with yourself. And those are very strident kinds of words. You may not feel like you're at war with yourself, but you're not a peacemaker. You're not moving through life for the greater good in your own personal demonstration of peace. We are peacemakers when we make peace within ourselves. For when we unconditionally accept love within ourselves, we gain more capacity to love and accept others. In this season, we give ourselves and others the gift of loving acceptance and open the channels of grace for peace for all. So, as a peacemaker, the other part of being a peacemaker, and another aspect of it, is practicing the presence of God. And what does that mean? It means going within and communing with that which is fully divine. Practicing the presence, communing with the divine, and going within, touching the stillness of our souls, helps us to know God. And when we know God, we know peace. It is that simple. You know peace when you know God. So, there are several steps. There are several concepts. The other aspect of all of this that I'm speaking to you about today is to think in terms of what if there was no peace? Think of that. What if there was no peace? And some of you may be sitting there saying, listen, there's lots of places in the world where there is no peace. And you would be right. My pushback to you is, will we find peace in you? Are you the peacemaker? Are you the peace that you want to see in the world? That's the pushback question. Only you can answer that. Be the peace. You are the peace. I know that.